this is Ross Harrison from Precision Health and Fitness, and today I'm going to talk about the old standby exercise, the barbell bench press. So, for many years it used to be like whenever exercise came up, one of the first questions people asked would be, how much can you bench? And I always hated that question and still do, and honestly I don't care. But I do care if people can perform a bench press in a healthy way that doesn't destroy their joints and their muscles and everything else, which a lot of people don't do. So today that's going to be the focus, how to perform a bench press with a bar in a way that is good for your body instead of wearing things down. I should say, honestly, I do prefer dumbbells to the bar, but they're a little more complicated, a little bit more to teach, so I'm starting with the barbell one. I'm sure I'll get into dumbbell stuff later. So here we go. The first thing, and this is a good one. I often ask people, when does an exercise start? And typically, a lot of people don't really focus until they have the weight up ready to go. But an exercise starts before you lift the weight. It's getting into position, doing everything you need to do before you start is part of the exercise. So doing that, starting in a good position is definitely important. With bench press, there's a number of ways that you can do it, particularly with your feet. Traditionally, both feet are on the ground, pushing against the floor. Especially for people who lift heavy, there's an advantage to that because you can push your feet into the floor, and a lot of times you'll see, I'll just sort of demonstrate this, you'll see people do things like they'll arch their back and essentially try to create a point where they have better leverage to push the bar. It's also very bad for your back. So I personally, nobody has to do this, but personally I like to have one leg up on the bench and one leg on the floor. The leg on the floor gives some stability so you don't feel like you're going to fall off the bench. The leg up, make sure your back stays flat. Some people like to do both legs up. Most people still do both legs on the floor. For me, it's just one leg up is a nice combination of comfort, safety, and stability. So that's how I'm going to do it. You may play around with it and do what you want, just as long as it's safe, I don't care. Alright, so lifting the bar. You don't want to have the bar too far back. If you're lifting the bar way back here, and especially if you're lifting a significant amount of weight, there's a lot of stress on the shoulders. So it's almost like just above the forehead, for me, is a nice position, and you can just push up and the bar will be over you. So probably the most common thing people do that leads to injury in the long run is the wrist. And the wrist should be directly in line with everything else. Like, basically, every exercise, you want alignment. If you have elbow and wrist, hand, everything's going in the same direction, you're going to be a lot stronger than if it's bent in any way. But typically, especially with the heavy weight, sometimes people don't have enough strength to hold that position, so the wrist cocks back, and as you'll notice, the elbow goes forward a little bit too, and you lose strength, you lose power as far as in the weaker joints, and it puts stress on your joints. So a good rule, especially if you're just starting, is learn to do it right at the beginning. Keep everything straight. When you come down, like if you're in what I'll call the 90-degree position, where the forearm, so your upper arm is about 90 degrees, you should have a definite straight line throughout here. If this is going on, if the elbow's back, it's putting stress on different places. Same thing, if there's not an alignment in here, you can do a bench press with your hands closer together, but you should still keep that position. If you're coming down and the elbow's really bent in, that's going to put more stress on your elbow, and you don't want that. And especially like an elbow in with the wrist back is just, there's way too much stress on your joints. So if in this position everything's in line, you're going to have a good position of strength, and you can just push straight up. And then repeating, maintaining that. The other place people get into a lot of trouble is with speed, or it'll be tough, they'll sort of pause at the bottom, and then they'll drop the weight a little bit and sort of bounce it up. It's never a good idea. Whatever position you stop at on the way down, just go up from there. If you have to, and especially And you used to see people who would lift really heavy weights do this a lot. They would physically bounce it off their chest, and you'd end up with broken ribs and who knows what else. But obviously not a good idea. You know, if you can't control a weight down here and hold it and push it back up, it's a good sign the weight's too heavy. And a lot of times you get a combination of these things. You get, you know, a person like arching their back and bouncing the weight off their chest, and it's obviously over time it's going to lead to problems. So slow control, keep things in alignment, which is pretty much true with every exercise, is definitely the way to go. I've done it a number of times, but the other thing is putting the bar back. And if you're using a challenging weight, you get to the end of the set, and you're like, okay, I've just done the last one. Yay, relax. That's also another point where people hurt themselves, especially on a rack like this, where you might be really tired and the weight might be really heavy, and having one on and the other off, or I've even seen people actually, well, if this was higher, I just did it. I've seen people overshoot the entire rack, and that's a good time when they're spotters. But for the most part, if you control it and you're using a weight that you're comfortable with, and you're paying attention until you put the bar back, you're going to be safe. So that's pretty much it with the bench press. I should also say, in the bottom position, some people can go lower than others. If at any point you're coming down here and you start to feel, okay, another thing you shouldn't do is let the bar just sort of sit on you, but this is a lightweight, so it's okay. If you feel stress in your shoulder, that especially when you only feel it at the bottom, you may only be able to go to here and then go back up. That's fine. As the shoulder gets stronger, it might be a flexibility issue, it could be any number of things. But if at the bottom position you feel an uncomfortable stress in the shoulder, that means don't go that low. Over time, you should be able to go lower. And you can play with lowering the weight and see if you get more range of motion, which again might be a sign that it's just too much weight. So obviously, there's a lot of different things to think about. It's, in essence, a simple exercise. A lot of exercises are, you're just moving a bar up and down in really not that huge a range of motion. But like with all this stuff, there's a lot of different things to think about. And another thing, if the bar is too far forward, you want to make sure that you can sit up without hitting your head. So that's pretty much the barbell bench press. There are some advanced techniques that I may talk about later on how to lift more weight safely, but for now it's more form technique. Don't hurt yourself starting, stopping, have things in the right alignment, and everything will be good. So hope you enjoy, and I'll have more videos later. Thanks.